Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of The Red Room. I am your host, Shay Samuels, and I'm happy to have you here with us again. We always tell you to make sure you bring a friend, call a cousin, call a brother, call a sister, call somebody and let them know that The Red Room is on. And if they do not get on, they are going to miss a nugget that can help them for the rest of their lives. So make sure you have your pens, your papers, and everything else, your iPads that you need to take notes, because we're going to drop some nuggets on you today. We do need to give a great big shout out to our sponsors. Thank you so much for your support, for your love, and just continually sewing into us so that the Red Room can continue to go on. We want to get into this topic. I'm telling you, you do not want to miss this. I kind of target your audience right before I get to start with the discussion, because I want you to know who to bring on. For this one, I want you to bring everybody. I want you to bring the mamas, the daddies, the cousins, the sisters, the brothers, the nieces, the nephews, the godkids. Everybody needs to be on for this episode. And if they can't make it because they're in school or because they're at work, listen, we want you to send it to them. Why? Because it is so important. This episode is going to bless you tremendously. We're talking today about awareness, how important it is for you to be aware. You know, your mom used to tell you to be aware of your surroundings. And today there's so much happening, not just with our generations, but there's so much happening in the world. Listen, we've just overcome it and we're still going through a pandemic. And every time it seems like we're just about over it, something else comes up. Now we're looking at this season. We're looking at that season. We're looking at flu. We're looking at different strands. And it seems like we're never going to be able to overcome it. And just when you think that might be it, we're still dealing with injustices in the world. We're still dealing with police brutality. We're still dealing with men being killed just because of the color of their skin. Listen, I need you guys to write this word down big: awareness. We have to be aware. Listen, even as we were preparing for this show, I had to think about a way that we would be able to do this where it wasn't doing what the world is doing right now, causing such a divide. Just having the conversation of awareness brings such a divide. A lot of our men are being made mockery of because of them saying certain things that we have been ridiculed for years, and it can cause you such an anger. But we want to bring to you today such awareness. There's no way around it. Listen, there's no way around it. We are living in times, even as times past, we are living in those times. So I want you guys to be aware of what's happening, but not just aware, what you can do to even get you to the place where it doesn't bring you anxiety, where it doesn't bring you depression, where it doesn't bring you fear. Because I know for me, I was really living in some days of fear because I wasn't sure what was going on. When I started to become more aware, I'm going to tell you guys, it hurt me more. And I started saying to myself, I would have rather not know what was going on. But you know what? You can't get around it. If you're on social media, you're going to see it. If you're watching the news, you're going to see it. If you have friends who have been impacted by it, I'm going to tell you that you are going to hear it. It's imperative that you hear it from the right ear, though. It was going to bless me today to talk to you guys about this. But I'm going to tell you, a bit of fear came in because I said, I don't want to cause a divide. So let grace abound you today as we begin to tap into this type of awareness. A few months ago, I actually created a song entitled "Can We Unite?" And this song for me, once I put it out there, I started asking people, can we unite? The majority of the people who did answer that question, they said no. Now, I was surprised about it because for me, the song is really talking from a positive standpoint. Hey, with all the things that are going on in this world, can we unite? I was thinking about where my mind was when I created this song. The Capitol had just been raided. These people were going in swarms. They were not getting the brutality that most people who were just seemingly just randomly driving down the street, they were just randomly driving down the street getting killed. But these people were able to infiltrate the Capitol. They were able to bypass the police officers. They were pepper spraying and doing all the things that police would have done if this was on the other side of the world. They were doing that to them. They made mockery of the Capitol. They were taking video and saying they were in there. And I was thinking to myself, can we really truly unite with all this strife? I was thinking about the political parties, how some sides started to work with the other side because they knew that things weren't right. But there was no one there to contain what was going on. And so there was a bit of fear that even came over me even then. Is this what we were coming to? And so I had to ask, can we unite? And for those of you who said no, I have to respect the opinion, but we may not be able to unite globally. But can I tell you this? We can unite community to community. When you start allowing your sons to be more aware of what is around them and how to operate in that, it becomes different. Most of us are saying to our sons, here's a PlayStation, here's some shoes, here's this, here's some jewelry, here's that. We're not educating them or making them aware enough to come outside of the divide. We're not putting a certain level of awareness, not to create a fear in them, but to create some level of confidence that they have a right as well. And regardless of when that right seems to be restricted from them, that they still have a right after that. We're teaching our kids to be more combative. We're teaching our kids even to just lie down, that's not even right. To just lie down, to just comply. There's a way that you can do things and be aware and still have a right after this. Listen, this word after this has been coming to me for some time. But even after this, you still have a voice. So now I am challenging you as a community to start building right where you are. We can do this globally, but we cannot do it individually. Can I say that again? We can do it globally, but we cannot do it individually. So you might be asking, Shay, where would you say I need to start with this? I'm going to tell you first, in your home. I'm going to tell you that if you begin to train your family up, start going back in the books, start going back. Listen, it goes way before the Martin Luther Kings, the Malcolm X's. It goes way before the Mandelas, the Abraham Lincolns. You got to go way, 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 way back. A lot of what we have experienced in life goes before our time, and it goes into slavery. But when you understand the elements of slavery, you'll begin to understand that some of what we're trying to get, it doesn't belong to us even today. Can you imagine your landlord, if you're renting, or your mortgage company, if you own your home, coming in saying to you that you need to give them this, or you need to give them that? You're going to say, no, I bought this. You're going to say, no, I purchased this. This belongs to me. And then they say, but you're in my house. Can you imagine that they're saying, you're in my house? I told you guys, I'm going to try to keep it where it's just awareness, but it goes a little bit deeper than that. Because if you don't have this level of awareness, you'll always begin to fight, not understanding that this is a fight that you possibly won't be able to win when you don't have proper awareness. Sometimes people on air won't talk about these type of things. One, because they don't have the coof to say it without grace. And the other is because they have a lack of awareness that causes more divide. So know that I'm here today to bring you a level of awareness that brings hope. And it starts right in our homes. Do you know you have children that go to school every day, and these kids go to school and they are actually jealous of one another? They are taught to go against their own brother. And when I say brother, I mean by color. Do you know that there are young ladies out there who are coveting other young women because of how long their hair is, or how many bundles were purchased, or what pair of jeans they have on, or what kind of shoes they have on, when there's a bigger adversary out there, and it's not each other? But if you don't teach that in the home, you cannot be effective outside of the home. Let me ask you, how many times have you seen your neighbor and thought, let me speak to that neighbor? How can we come together to make this community better? And that's what I mean by communities beget communities. If you literally start operating effectively in your community, one brings one. You can't do it alone. You cannot do this alone. Do you know how many people try to do what you're trying to do in your anger and in your frustration? But I challenge you today to become aware. But then I also ask the question again, can we unite the world with all this strife? It may seem a bit difficult when you're watching the news because you're watching another person be killed. You're watching another person strangled. You're watching another woman being beat. You're watching this happen and that happen. But let me say this because it's real. Are you not doing this in your own home? Are you not doing this to your own people? And some people might get offended by that, but I'm not saying it to divide. I'm saying it to bring awareness. What are we doing differently than our oppressors? That's just a question I'm asking. I want you to think about it. How the knowledge came to me when I started to think about what people were going through. I was one of those people who would say, this would never happen to me. I go to work, I come home, I take care of my kids, I'm a law-abiding citizen. And then I started seeing law-abiding citizens taking the beatings of those who still didn't deserve it, but may have done something to deserve it. Listen, I'm telling you guys, it is important for us to come together. You have seen all sides of the fences. You have seen Blacks, you have seen whites, you have seen Asians, you've seen Hispanics. Every person come together for the good. So what that tells me is there are some good people out there. What that tells me is that there are people who are willing to stand in the gap because they became aware of the fight. Can you become aware of the fight? When I ask, can we unite the world with all this strife? The answer may be no now, and the answer may be no next year, and the answer may be no. And some people might say, lady, are you even watching what our ancestors went through? I'm going to ask and challenge you to say, when does the change begin? Do you realize you have children in your home that you don't want to have to suffer the consequences of things that have been done here because that's just how it's always been? If you guys have connected with the show, you've heard me talk about generational curses and bondages and things that we've traditionally done that held us back. Can we say today, I do want to start uniting, but it has to start right here in our own communities. It has to start in our schools. It has to be important enough for you to say, listen, I understand that I do have bills to pay, but when I go to this school, I want to make a mark, not just for my child, but for all the children who are there. We have become so accustomed to a system that holds us in bondage. And I'm talking about from working to school. It's a repeated cycle. I have to work, so I can't take care of the child. I can't take care of the child because I have to work. I can't teach what I need to because I didn't learn it. I didn't learn it because I had to work. My mother didn't teach me, and my mother didn't teach me because her mother didn't know. Do you see how that goes? So we have to ask one another, when does it stop? And then when can we begin to change the world one person at a time? It has to start with us in our homes. Listen, if I were here today talking with you and I couldn't do what I needed to do in my own home, I would be a hypocrite. And yes, we all have challenges in our own home. But if I'm not starting what I'm telling you about in my own home, how can I effectively give you knowledge about something that I have no awareness of? How can I effectively give you something that you need on the other side of this world? How can I effectively do anything for you that you yourself can't do for you yourself can't do? You have to be planted somewhere that gives you the opportunity to just build, to create, to bring to light, bring awareness, study. The Bible says to study to show yourselves approved. You have to study. You have to study. There's not one thing you can do. And if you don't know where to begin, there's so many different resources out there for you to start grabbing a hold of this. But we can't just stop at, well, I'm tired of seeing the police brutality. I'm tired of seeing my people killed. I'm tired of seeing our women beaten. I'm tired of seeing our kids taken. Listen, we all are. But if we cannot get it right in our own homes, our kids are going out unaware. So what's my challenge to you today? Today, I want you to look at where you are. Look at where your families are. Look at what you're providing in the community. Look at what you add to your community. And I'm talking about right in your circle. I'm talking, look, if you live in a development, I want you to look at, do I even know my neighbor? Listen, I don't even want to take it there. But how many of us live in neighborhoods? I remember a time when I was growing up, my grandmother, she was on one stoop, her neighbor was on another stoop, and they knew one another. They knew one another well enough to say, if I didn't see her outside that day, something is absolutely wrong. We have gotten so mind boggled with, I got a day to day, I got to worry about me. We have gotten so accustomed to, I have to worry about me, that we're not worried about the person next to us. So I'm challenging you to, and I'm asking you, do you know your neighbors? Do you know who they are, what they go through, what they know? I'm not even going to say start a group, but don't start something that divides. Start something that builds. It starts with our children. I wish I knew a lot of this growing up. I wish I would be able to just kind of regurgitate what I just did with you when I was younger, but I was so oblivious to it. I've heard of, the slaves, and I heard of, our people oppressed, and I've heard of, different things that really would have allowed me to hate other cultures. But I was raised around a lot of those cultures as well. And it's unfortunate because what they did not understand as a child, I didn't understand as a child. And yet we were all a part of it. And now that I'm older and I'm seeing our children have to go through the same thing, walking in fear because of what they see, but have no awareness in which way to go. Can you challenge yourself today to become more aware so that you can teach your family what they need to know, especially for this time and this age? Our generation needs this. Our generation needs to be impacted by this. Our generation needs to be more aware about it. And listen, there's something else I want to say as far as our children, because my daughter used to talk with me a lot about certain things. And I would say, well, this is another phase of another person who's in school and they're hearing all of this Black power, Black Panther, power to the people talk. And once I started listening to her, I realized that it was so much bigger than that. Can I tell y'all, my mind was free because of her? Can I explain to you that as I began to let her talk with me and talk to me, that there were things that opened up that I had I'm talking about traditions that my family kept that we had no awareness of why, and we kept them. So now here we are in this world of injustice. And I'm going to tell you this, it's looking the same as it did when we were being taught in sixth grade. I'm watching our ancestors being sprayed down by water, not able to go in certain stores, being looked at. I walked in the store just a few weeks ago, and I won't say the store's name, but I walked in another state, and I'm telling you, when I went to walk to the counter, the young man put the sign up to say the lane was closed. When I tell you that we're living in it, we're living in it. Now, here's the thing. I know my awareness is that I know my rights. And so I said to this young man, so you're going to close the register when I walk up? But not only did he do that, right before I got to him, there was another young lady who closed her register. But I acknowledged it with grace. And I said, so you're going to close the register up when I come? Now, how I know the register wasn't to be closed is because the young man ended up helping me, but the people after, he began to help. So I knew that the register wasn't closed, but let me tell you, gracefully, I knew my rights and I got the service that I wanted. Some of you may get angry when you experience that, which causes things to be even worse. But when you have a certain level of awareness, you'll know that I have a right. And when you can operate in that right, you'll be treated the way that you feel you should be treated, but not the way they want you to be. I'm going to tell you, this is to bring hope, not division, not divide. It's going to happen to you. It's going to happen because that's what the world is accustomed to. But when we can start training our kids, we can start making them aware. You yourself become more aware. How can you fight a good fight if you don't even know what you're fighting? Can you imagine someone gossiping and telling you that something happened on one side of the world and you go to that world and you hate that world because you just heard something from somebody else and you're fighting the wrong fight? You don't have the education, you don't have the knowledge, you don't know one name to the next. You have to do your homework. You have to do your homework. How do you know who to stay away from when you start having these conversations? People who are angry, people who are just like, they just trying to keep us oppressed. They just trying to keep, no, that's not what it is. It's a system that is built. Remember, go back to the house I was telling you about. If you own a home or if you rent a home, we live in a society where a system has already been built. And when you realize that you're living in that system and the system may not be created to help you, but you still have a right. So become more aware of the right. Become more graceful about the right. And become more knowledgeable so that you can teach others about the right. I've had way too many people around me who were angry. They were so angry that I became fearful to even be in this world. Not that I would do anything to hurt myself, but I'm just being honest because there's someone listening and watching today that's saying that was me. But I was fearful to drive down the road, not knowing if I was going to make it home. I started going into my clients of all different races and started feeling some type of way about one particular race. Oh, I had no problem with. I started getting anxieties watching the news, and I had to ask myself, can we truly unite? Can this happen? And I had to be more aware that it may not happen today. Listen, it may not. It truly may not happen today. But it can happen right where you are. Give our young people some confidence in the fact that there is an opportunity for them to live a great life. That once you start being transparent enough in saying, this is going to happen. You know, when you start saying it shouldn't, morally, no, it shouldn't. But we all know that it is. It's happening right in front of us every day. But when we get angered and we start making crazy decisions, to burn down buildings, to shut out stores of owners who are the only ones on the neighborhood who's selling. You took away from your kind. You took away from your people just because you were angry. That didn't make any sense to me. So I want you to be more aware. I want you to be more knowledgeable. I want you to start training your kids that way and understand that at the end of the day, we may not be able to unite globally, but we can start individually in our homes. I pray that this episode blessed you. Thank you for allowing me to pour my heart out to you today and bring hope and a level of awareness that you can become more aware and more effective all at the same time. Listen, I'm Shay Samuels. I love the opportunities that I get a chance to spend with you and the nuggets that we get a chance to drop. Until the next time, we'll see you for another episode of The Red Room. Mwah!
He's alive. He's no my goodness, yes he did. If you ask me if he changed me, yes he, yes he, yes he.
Are you saying Jesus changed you?
Oh yes he did. If you ask me if he changed me, yes he, yes he, yes he, yes he. Oh my goodness, yes he did. If you ask me if he changed me, yes he, yes he, yes he.
Are you saying Jesus changed you?
Oh yes he did. Don't get upset, I'ma take you back. You can go with me, you can check facts. You can ask family, you can ask all them dudes that was with me, said they had my back. You can ask hood dudes living on the street. Them same dudes you can see me on E. Man, that boy then changed, got touched by the man upstairs. Man, that's so rare. I didn't do it cause I wanted to. God called me, I heard him do. All them other voices were destructive. God gave me good news. He said that he would change me if I gave up, surrendered it. Did it took a minute, testimony, show and live it. If you ask me if he changed me, yes he, yes he, yes he, yes he. Oh my goodness, yes he did. If you ask me if he changed me, yes he, yes he, yes he.
Are you saying Jesus changed you?
Oh yes he did. If you ask me if he changed me, yes he, yes he, yes he, yes he. Oh my goodness, yes he did. If you ask me if he changed me, yes he, yes he, yes he.
Are you saying Jesus changed you?
Oh yes he did. Got caught up, that's true story. Grew up in church, that's true story. Saved as a young boy, that's true story. Didn't mean nothing, man, that's true story. I'ma tell this truth in the midst of my story. Yeah, I got proof, the results on more. This thing real, can't come back on the peel. He turned up on the grill, this he hot. Lake fire burn, don't stop. Think about it, giving me chills. I don't wanna go there, ask for a change. Took me back when I first got saved. Gave it up, man, I just got played. When I walked out, man, I should've just stayed. That was easy, should've just prayed. I know that now, I got some age. Slow this down.
Holy Ghost,
High on Jesus.
overdose.
Wanna know how?
Take some notes.
Here's the first thing.
You should know.
Just repent,
Ask forgiveness
then be baptized.
in his name.
You will come up,
Not the same.
speak in tongues.
Now you're saved.
I didn't do it cause I wanted to. God called me, I heard him do. All them other voices were destructive. God gave me good news. He said that he would change me if I gave up, surrendered it. Did it took a minute, testimony, show and live it. If you